water you take out of the well, the level always remains the same because it is fed by an inner spring. And that's what Jesus said, that the Spirit of God would be like a spring of water coming up from within. So the experience of the filling of the Spirit is that it is in the, what mood now, class? Tell me. Imperative mood, which means what? It is a command to be obeyed. And the present tense, which means to be continually filled. And what that means is that it is that we should have something that is done every day of our lives. Just as the children of Israel gathered the manna every day in order to be fed, except for the Sabbath day when they would gather before the Sabbath day, so we need to be filled with the Spirit of God. So note, please, that it is not a once-for-all experience, but it is an experience that is to be the habit of a believer's life. In that sense, we can say, sure, we want a second blessing, a third blessing, a fourth blessing, a fifth blessing, right on down, because every time that you are filled with the Spirit of God, it will be a blessing to your soul. Isn't that right? So, what's the third aspect now? We've taken a look at the mood. It's the imperative mood, which means it's a command. We've taken a look at the tense. It's a present tense, which means to be continually filled with. Well, what about this voice? Would you write this down? It is the passive voice. P-A-S-S-I-V-E, passive. Well, what does the passive voice mean? It means that the filling of the Spirit, hear me now carefully, is something that is done to us, not something that we do for ourselves. Let me repeat that. The passive voice means that it is not something that we do for ourselves, but it is something that is done for us. It is not us getting more of the Holy Spirit. It is the Holy Spirit getting more of us. That's the meaning of when we talk about the voice. It's the passive voice. So what you find here is that the believer draws upon the indwelling presence of the Spirit of God moment by moment, consciously or unconsciously, and that's the reason why that Paul says, be continually being filled with the Spirit of God. So the experience of being filled with the Spirit of God is that it is a command to be obeyed. It is a condition to be continued, that is to say, it is to be done continually, habitually, and it is a control to be exercised, and by that we mean it is the Holy Spirit getting more of us. We are to be God-intoxicated people. Now, we need to pause at this moment and ask ourselves, are we filled with the Spirit of God? Now, we need to ask the Lord to fill us. And when the Lord reveals to us if there is any barrier in our lives, because the Holy Spirit can be grieved, He's a person, the Holy Spirit can be grieved and so on. If God shows us there is any barrier in our lives, then we need to confess and forsake that so that the Holy Spirit will have free recourse in our lives. Is that all clear? Nod your head yes, okay? Number two, what's the evidence